And I felt that if I'm going to keep myself here, I will just be delaying where I should be getting at. They're asking you to do what they have done. But because they never dared to do something different, they will never encourage you in that direction. Nothing wrong of them. They're just keeping your best interest in mind. Feel that immense gratitude in your heart that I once again found what I was meant to find.
मैं तो सिर्फ 3 घंटे सोया हूँ देख कितना I am fine right now.
It's nothing to feel proud about.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is a
really
wrong competition that you're having.
And how you're impacting your nervous system, it's not even funny. And people don't realize that you're simply enslaved by your mind. Once you recognize that you're constantly having to depend on something.
You're being driven by your mind. That is, I think, what a lot of people are into right now.
Correct. So that means you don't need extra supplements. If you don't get the chance to do a little decluttering of your mental space, then we call ourselves saturated, then we say we are anxious, then it starts showing up in the physical body, then we get paranoid, then we have breakdowns.
We're always multitasking.
Correct.
Hello everyone, my name is Pranav Vashisht and this is the Gut Feel Show, a podcast on mental well-being, where we invite guests from all walks of life and we discuss different aspects of well-being in their profession and in their life. Our today's guest is a yoga practitioner from Mumbai, Nishtha Bijlani. She started her journey from a corporate profession because her gut feel was not happy in the corporate life. She stepped out, started exploring, and eventually landed into yoga. Her journey is fabulous, and the way she explained things about yoga and meditation is amazing. You should go ahead and look this in detail. We spoke about sleep. We spoke about that meditation and yoga is the same thing. The West is bifurcating the two as different things to create businesses, but actually they are two same things. And also we spoke about how we should enjoy boredom and how important is that in life. Also for the females watching in, we have discussed about the yoga that you can do during your periods and how it can help you during your menstruation. Please keep watching till the end and subscribe us for more such interesting content. Hello Nishtha, welcome to the Gut Feel Show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Pranav.
I'm glad to have you on the show and to discuss about yoga. I would like to begin with your journey with yoga. Please elaborate on that. How did it start and where is it headed?
Well, it started 10 years back.
Okay.
And I had no plans or any thought of moving in this direction. I always say that yoga found me. I don't think I could have ever found it by myself.
Okay.
Or maybe if I was meant to, it would have found its turns. But my life was very different and I was headed in a very media marketing corporate world. That was my education background actually. So having studied that and majored in advertising, so my world was very different. Was very like, tuck, this has to be done. I have, these are the companies I want to work with. So I had a work life, which was in PR and events for a short while. But for me, it was extremely long. And thankfully so that my breaking point came in much sooner. Hence, I did not work for beyond like 2 years or so.
Okay.
And that itself felt like an eternity for me, because I just knew that I don't belong there. In spite of having, worked and studied in that direction where you are like, yeah, this is where my life's headed. But only when you get into it and you realize
practical experience.
Correct. Being in that kind of a company setup, in that very hierarchical corporate setup, to realize that, you're not really actually contributing in any way. You're just having to do what you're asked to do. And I felt that it was quite, I didn't feel like I have a purpose here. And I could not see that I could be doing that for, even for the next 5 years for that matter.
It's a blessing that you realized it very quickly in life and you moved, you did not go further to test and try, but you stepped out.
Yes, actually in a very short period of time, I changed like 3 jobs back to back. Okay. And everybody around me is like, what are you doing? You're going to mess up your CV. And friends around me seemed to be okay. And the problem was, why are they okay and I'm not okay? Yeah. And I kept hunting for the next better job, but nothing was seeming better. The people were great, everything was great, the companies were great, but I wasn't happy. Even though I was good with my job, but that wasn't helping. And so I think I had very early on, I had a set of inquiry, like a question answer with myself, like what am I doing? That came in really early, where I knew that if I can't see myself doing this for the next 5 years, why am I wasting my time? I should be out sooner. And it's okay for me to not know what I want it's okay. I rather have a list of things I don't want rather than, knowing what I want.
Yes.
I'll arrive at that. But if I'm going to keep myself in this setup, I probably not even have the space of time and, the space in my head to kind of get to where I should be. So I felt I'm delaying that process of getting to where I should be. Hence, I should be out.
So you were led somehow unknowingly, maybe you were leading a life of purpose. And when you could not find it in your corporate job, you were sort of agitated and wanted to step out to find it somewhere else.
Yes. And I felt that if I'm going to keep myself here, I will just be delaying where I should be getting at. That feeling was so strong in me that I was okay to just sit at home and do nothing. And at least I knew that that nothing is more productive than actually being somewhere where I just don't feel like I'm contributing in the way I should be, not because I'm asked to do work, but I just felt that the real contribution from me and my potentials are being tapped. And I had zero idea what I should be doing, because people tell you, find something, then you leave. But how do I find something if I'm already in something else? I can't have one leg here and one leg there.
And this was one person against everyone thinking of something else.
Yeah, nobody agreed with me at that time.
And see, that is where I keep on telling people, and that is why I named the show the Gut Feel Show, because in my life, I have personally felt this, and I've seen that a lot of people in their life have done great things when they were tuned with their gut feel.
Absolutely.
The gut feel was guiding them somewhere. वो पता नहीं होता आप जा कहाँ रहे हो, but वो आपको जहाँ नहीं जाना होता ना वहाँ से रोक देता है.
सही बात.
It will step you out कि you're not headed this way at least. So cancel this out. What next? We'll find out.
We'll find out. That's true. And to go with that leap of faith that you will find out. You have to walk in the dark.
Yes.
To get there.
It's a lonely
path. It is alone, correct. There's nobody with you, because they are speaking of, from that very logical point of view, but this doesn't make sense. What are you doing? This is the way society functions. So they have functioned. They're asking you to do what they have done. But because they never dared to do something different, they will never encourage you in that direction. Nothing wrong of them. They're just keeping your best interest in mind.
They have their own constrained way of thinking, which you don't have. So the thing is, when you step out, वो सब एक डायरेक्शन में चले जाते हैं और आप अकेले चल रहे
हैं. बिल्कुल.
So now you have to have that
the courage to
just go forward in that and keep on finding, at least just keep on finding. Otherwise कई बार breakdown आता है. It is almost like entrepreneurship. What you did was start your own journey. So that is where you found yoga. Tell me a bit more about the impacts of yoga that you have felt and the people that you have been working with. What is the impact of yoga in personal life?
So first was recognizing that the life that I was living before that was at a very surface level. These are the things, because people have told you that you have to be setting yourself up in that direction. But then when, like you said, then you're alone. It's kind of a lonely journey.
Yes.
But that lonely journey is giving you an amazing opportunity to connect with yourself. And that self had been waiting to connect with you. This may sound like you, self, you, no, it's two different, two different entities within you. And I remember even when I so badly wanted to leave and I had no idea where I'm going, it was quite a bodily sensation, because there was no logical thinking. If I use my logical mind, so since we're talking about the gut, it was a bodily feeling directing you in. And so slowly with yoga, I was beginning to recognize that there is more to what the logical mind is telling you, the intellect is telling you. There has to be something deeper, and that you have to kind of trust that you're being guided. And so understanding that there is more to just you the person who has an educational qualification, and you and your CV, for example, where are you being led? So I was so much, wanting to get into the space of I am being drawn to something, I'm being inclined, and I'm ready to now carry on to that path. Then so I didn't directly find yoga actually. Before that I went into a few counseling programs where it was a certified counseling program. But again, I took that up only because I was wanting to work on myself. Okay. I knew there was a lot of things that needed to be resolved within me, which were not. And a lot of baggage that I was carrying, old patterns of thinking that needed to kind of be untangled.
Let go.
Yes. And when that happened, I felt, because of those programs that I did, which I luckily chanced upon because of a few friends who told me that, what, since you have some time, why don't you? And I was very ready at that time to do anything that is helping me evolve. There was no thought that, oh, this is going to add to my professional life. None of that. I had dropped that thought. I was only about self. That woke up in me really early. I'm very happy about that. And then, because I had gone through those programs, I was then somehow led to yoga. And I feel if that didn't happen earlier, I would have not opened myself up to yoga.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of chance that my mother told me that, hey, just, there's this yoga institute and in Mumbai, just go check it out. They're running some programs. I signed up. I had no intention of being a teacher, taking it professionally. It was just that I am now ready to learn anything more that is going to add value to my life. It doesn't matter, profession, career, and all of that. So I was so open, like a clean slate. I didn't have any
fresh perspective,
transactional, requirement from it. That अभी सीखा तो अब मुझे profession बनाना है उसका.
पहले का सारा canvas was erased.
हाँ.
You were fresh, white canvas.
Yes.
You were getting on to paint fresh.
Absolutely.
And I think that is how serendipity works. Like you are led to the place by some mediums. Like your mother was a medium.
Absolutely.
To led you to lead, so that you lead to that place where you started learning yoga.
Yeah, and one of my teachers very beautifully said that, it doesn't come to everybody. You may definitely have some past karmic connection to it. A seed had been planted and here you find yourself. And it is so true, it's like you feel that immense gratitude in your heart that I once again found what I was meant to find. And if I hadn't made those choices before, I'd probably wasted and delayed that process of getting to this, And so then when the yoga journey did start, the first set of realizations was that why wasn't I taught this in school? Because this is not just yoga, come do your Surya Namaskar. In the institute, in the school setup, when you actually study yoga, you realize that it is a way of life. They're setting you up for the world. And you realize that, and it's very simple. The traditional teachings, nothing fancy, not asking you to be world leaders or any of that. They're just working on your roots and your basics. And when you then open your mind and your eyes up to that, you realize that how much of this was missing in your life. And that's why you've somehow fumbled your way and found yourself here. Only if this came to you sooner. So that was one of my first realizations. And the second, very most prominent, like I have this very vivid memory, was after a very long, could I sit without feeling bouts of anxiousness?
That stillness came alive.
And in the beginning, I was resisting that stillness because I didn't know what it felt like to be so still. It almost scared me that how can it not feel anxious? Because anxiety felt familiar. I was used to that.
That is what we a very important point you're mentioning, that we are familiar to these things.
Correct. Even if that's harmful to you.
And the unfamiliar thing feels scary, slightly like you feel different in that space.
Correct. And so many times people don't want to tread that path, even if it's good for you.
You're scared of it.
It's scary. It's uncertain. And so that was the initial feeling where I was resisting even that. It would come in small bursts. And then I started to realize that I've never felt so at ease. It was okay for me to feel the intense tension, the nerves in my body, like bodily sensations. The gut was always tense. I used to be really underweight at that time. And so when I allowed yoga to have its effect, where it was simply absorbing, there was not like, oh, I did the physical practice and I did this. It's not like I can point out. It's the teachings of the study or the philosophy of yoga that once they started penetrating that level of consciousness, things started to change at that level from in. And then they started to, then I started to fully accept it. So that was my initial, how I was impacted by yoga, initially.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. And Nishtha, what is the impact of yoga if we are practicing yoga? Does it positively impact your emotions, the hormones, the mental health eventually? How can one experience that, and what are the outcomes? If can it help you calm down? Can it help you in a lot of things that you're facing in life?
Yeah, I feel one of the best ways to enter your yogic journey, if you wish to, is through physical practice. I mean, it is not the only way for sure. We will also probably talk a little about the other aspects to yoga, but the yoga asanas and the physical aspect is one of the better ways today for most people to enter into yoga, because we have lost that connection with our body, because we're always in our mind.
Yes.
And for us to be pulled out of our mind, to actually be in the present, to be in the body at that cellular gross level, physical asana practice is great. And then what makes it even more effortless is the breath. So you start getting more aware of your breath. So when you, at that first level, you start, say for example, you sign up for a yoga class, you find a good teacher, you start with your classes, and you don't have to think about, oh my God, this is going to help me with these are the benefits. I think the benefits and the concept of this posture gives me these benefits, whatever, should be dropped. Because then again, it becomes that you start having an expectation. कि मुझे thyroid है, तो मुझे यही करना है, मुझे ये है. I think it can never really work as few postures or few things, like, nitpicking selectively.
Holistic yoga.
It has to be a full practice.
Correct.
It has to be a full practice without expectation, dedicatedly, showing up every day on the mat without knowing or thinking कि मेरा 1 महीना हो गया है, मुझे अभी तक कुछ आया नहीं results. Because if you want a result-oriented approach, there are many other things that you can go for. But when you come to yoga, you surrender. So if you have the quality to be able to surrender, then you are going to be surprised with what all you get in return.
Yeah.
So if that happens, a person starts seeing the first initial things are, first you get that just basic bodily connection. People are so disoriented कि left से right नहीं पता होता है, right से left नहीं पता होता है. Basic चीजें समझ नहीं आती कि okay, when you say raise your hand up, bend forward, whatever, what does it even mean to do? Because we haven't connected with our physical body. We've lost touch rather. It's not like we didn't have that. And then you start realizing, okay, there is this energy that's flowing in the form of breath inside of me. Okay, I'm supposed to be focusing, or I'm supposed to be aware. A lot of those, like, multiple dimensions within you start coming together.
Yes.
And in that, you start feeling like, wow, then people say, oh, this was mindful or mindfulness, like these terms which are moving around. It has always been around that. The practice of yoga is always getting you to be in the present moment. So it starts bringing you in the present moment, and all of the other things we talk about, hormonal balance, mental health, just all of the physical benefits that we may discuss, so for that matter, are just by default. It's a byproduct of it.
It is eventually going to
Correct.
come.
Yes.
But you have to surrender, and you need to understand this importance. And I personally feel it when you are doing yoga, you cannot do it without being in the moment.
Absolutely.
You will fall out of the pose.
Yes.
It is all about balance.
Yeah.
If you miss that balance, and if you're somewhere else, your mind is running around,
Yes.
you will not be able to do it.
Yeah. You will struggle in the class.
So that is where, if you master the physical practice, you are by default somewhere doing meditation in the process.
Absolutely. It is where the word, so like the step before meditation is, that one-pointedness. So it's getting you to one-pointedness. Where then it becomes effortless.
There's no left, right, you're just at one place.
Yes.
Your mind and body are at the same place.
It's constantly drawing you back into the body. Like we said, we're so in our mind, you're now being pushed in the direction to come in your body.
That is why a lot of people, when they start yoga, get irritated. Because their mind has to stop for them to do yoga.
Yeah.
They cannot do it multitasking.
Correct.
That
You
is why
cannot
a lot of
parallelly
people
do
get
anything.
irritated, and then they move to a gym with a lot of music.
Correct.
So that they can feed in
You
their
need that
mind with the
distraction.
music and distractions.
You said it. That's what it is.
I have never seen a gym without any music, because the distraction is important for us.
Important for them to be able to concentrate. It's like a bait.
Bait.
And here there's nothing.
Without music, that's fun, and just do whatever everyone is doing. And yoga is irritating. When it begins, it's a silent room.
Yes.
No noise.
Yeah.
What to do?
Yes.
It's irritating.
Yes.
Nishtha, also tell me about the Western influence that is actually, I feel, is also manipulating the original thing that was yoga. They've taken it, repackaged it, given to us. What is happening? What is your take about it? So many forms of yoga that have come in: face yoga, dog yoga. What is your take on that?
I mean, I guess at some point we need to also have a little discretion to understand one from the other. But that being said, it is true that, I mean, yoga has existed for beyond our understanding of how many, thousands of years. But it's only recently that when it kind of, it's just how our society sadly works. When something has been repackaged and remodeled, given back to us, coming from a foreign land, coming back to us, what has always been us, then we seem to accept it, it's just the sad reality. But even if you look at it as a plus, but you recognize that this has always been a part of your culture. It has belonged in this subcontinent. It originated here. And you have good access to it. Because also there is understanding of culture, there's understanding of language. So there is an upper hand, So if a person wants to, they can dive deeper by recognizing that. While I say that, I feel it should not be looked at as yoga should be limited to just this part of the world. It doesn't have any geographical boundaries, and it shouldn't. It is a universal practice. It shouldn't be divided by borders. While I say that, I see that moving forward, it's moving in two parallel directions. And I think there's always that sense of duality in everything.
Yes,
so there's two dual aspects I see to it, where one aspect is going in a very, may not be very rooted to the tradition, maybe just going because it's giving good business. There's commercial brands and all of those things involved, when a lot of industries decide to jump in, and because they see something is growing, and it's
Opportunity.
that aspect where people just want to have a very superficial way of functioning when it comes to yoga. While I also see the opposite end, that there are those who are trying to function in a very rooted in a traditional manner, preserving the cultural elements and aspect. Both may be moving, maybe one's moving faster than the other, but irrespective, I feel it cannot happen without the two dual forces. And that is where the future is headed. Now, where a person uses their discretion and chooses to be on one or the other side, it's like you may go on this side, then you may realize that, okay, what was I doing? And then you come onto this side. It is a journey of finding. When you're really seeking, a person will, if you're seeking the truth, you will find. And yoga is literally a journey of, discovering your own truth.
So the seed is the curiosity to find.
Correct.
That will lead you to the right path. Eventually.
If the seed has been sown, and if you're genuinely seeking, no matter what, whether it is Western, and I say don't even think it is only the Western influence, because when you are already influenced in your own country, I mean, I see it around in our cities and everywhere else, that it is that aspect, the superficial aspect also, which is very apparent. So it's easy to be drawn to that. It's easy to, be like, oh, look at the glamorous aspect of it.
They get convinced.
Yeah, it's easy to be convinced by that. It's easy to be convinced by the fancy, appearance of certain things, the way it's being portrayed, rather than the deeper aspect of it.
Yes.
But a person who is seeking will find their way.
Yes.
So I feel that will always continue. Then at the end, the discretion is ours.
The crux is to have that importance of finding the truth.
Correct. Yeah, which as a responsibility lies on us.
Yeah. Great. Good to know that. Nishtha, explain a little bit about REBT, the practice that you do. What is it? What is the impact of that?
So this was something I studied before yoga when I was talking about the counseling program.
Yes.
So REBT stands for Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, and I feel that has greatly influenced and affected my journey even towards yoga. So it simply means so when I was studying Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, it was very simply understanding something for what it is.
Okay.
Rather than having a very, say for example, you in yoga also you say, what is it to be aware? It is when you say that you look at something for what it is. Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy is also that, where you, rather than rationalizing, you see something for what it is. So it is a form of therapy which I don't professionally teach, but I have used its tools in my yogic journey, where sometimes I may be informally counseling some of my students, just using that, keeping in mind a person's emotional state as well, but having the rational understanding for what it is. It's very easy to be drawn by the emotional mind, which is playing stories.
So it is to avoid biases.
Yes, it is to see what
it is like, without having your perception coming in or your biases coming in.
Like pulling out all of the layers to then see what you're left with.
Okay. And that matches the philosophy of yoga.
Yes.
It does coincide.
Correct. It goes quite hand in hand.
Yeah.
So it allows me to have that very pragmatic approach.
Great. Understood.
Yeah.
Because it is in intersection with the yoga philosophy.
Yes.
To uncover.
Yes.
And see the actual thing.
Correct. Like poetic things can be kept aside, but then you see what it is for it. Yeah.
Also, I want to get to this very important topic now, which is sleep. There's a lot of sleep issues people are facing.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, and what can be done? What are some tips that you have?
Yeah. The thing, I think if you just sit for a moment and think, where does sleep deficiency, like literally today we can say half the planet is said to be sleep deficient.
Yes.
India has a big population of sleep deprived people. If you just think about it, back in the day, and people very naturally followed what we understand today also as a circadian rhythm, which we see in yoga and Ayurveda as dinacharya. So dinacharya was very simply said, that is, you function as per the sun and the moon, as per the nature. Before the sun, you rise, and as the sun begins to set, you start to retreat. You see that in the animal world. You see it in the plants and the flora and the fauna.
They're still doing it.
Correct. They are living with the laws of the nature. We feel we can surpass laws of nature, and time has nothing on us. And why should 24 hours be wasted? So people try to pull out every little minute to do everything else, or maybe rather change up the order of certain things that were very scientifically actually put to happen in that manner. For example, say you say the sleep hours have shifted much later than what it was, because it's okay to call yourself a night owl. It is okay to say that
it is becoming fancy. People don't talk about it. It is becoming a something that is cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's sad because then you feel that, okay, I just have to somehow pull in 4 hours, 5 hours of sleep and I'll be fine. And so that means even if you sleep at 3, wake up at 7 or 8 is okay somehow.
I've seen people competing on this. मैं तो सिर्फ 3 घंटे सोया हूँ, देख कितना I am fine right now.
It's nothing to feel proud about.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is
it's
a
really
wrong
nothing.
competition that you're having.
And how you're impacting your nervous system, it's not even funny, you know, and people don't realize that. And also today we are so overloaded on caffeine. I feel that's a very important thing. There's a, you know, a balance that a person can create with caffeine, but say for example, you have just slept for 4-5 hours, you've got to get to work. So you're like, okay, 3 घंटा 4 घंटा हम सोए हैं, but I will get my coffee and I will survive. And so then the day you know you have slept late, you'll have probably some extra cups of coffee and it's keeping you awake. Sure, you're somehow managing to get your work done. Sure, yes. But that means you are blocking out the natural receptors or signals that your body is giving you because the caffeine is blocking it out. But if you did not have that caffeine, you would be ready to crash by half the day.
Yeah.
And in a normal scenario, if you had the luxury of actually going to bed sooner, you would, you know, or if you make it your priority, you would. But you feel that I can maximize and I can push. And say maybe till 30s, late 30s, people are just pushing and they think that it's okay. But when it comes to catch up with you, it will.
Yeah.
And that's not nice, you know, when it does.
People, it will hit hard.
Yes, it hits you hard. Other parts of the body are overcompensating because of it.
Yeah.
People are relying a lot today on supplements of melatonin because they think that, okay, it's fine. Some people, some brands say that it's not habit forming and it's okay to have it. But in yoga, we understand that at the end of the day, you know, it's the mind that should have the control to be able to sleep at will and wake up at will.
Yes.
And if you don't have that, you're simply enslaved by your mind. Once you recognize that you're constantly having to depend on something.
You're being driven by your mind. That is, I think, what a lot of people are into right now.
Correct. So that means you don't need extra supplements. You don't need a sleep audio. You don't need all of those things.
The gummies, the good night gummies.
Correct.
All these things.
And if you look at it right now, we just zoom out and look at it, we've added solutions to the problems we created for ourselves.
Yes.
Do you need more supplements or help to come in your way for sleep? Or you rather just clean up your lifestyle, make it simpler? We have just added things. We need to simply remove it. We don't need so many things. You clear out your day, make life simple for yourself, work as per the, you know, basic circadian rhythm. That's all there is to it. Don't eat late dinners. Don't work out too late at night because then you're waking up your nervous system. You know, when it's like when the sun sets, and if you even see, if you dim your lights by evening or before bedtime, 2-3 hours, your mind gets a signal that it's time to sleep. No, and that's the reason they say don't have your blue light on your phone or using your phone late at night, because your mind is getting the messages you're supposed to stay awake. So it's not getting the right message that I need to now wind up. So sunset means it's time to wind up. But we start our day and our night. And because
most of the colleges are running like this now.
Look at corporates, look at the IT sectors, it's scary because in all of the IT sectors in the big cities, they will have the IT sectors with all the bars and the pubs. Because then they are kind of trying to get them to fill up a void. They feel they have something to look forward to. Because agar wo nahi kiya, it feels like yaar, life to waste hai. So then reality hits you. But you don't want to be hit by reality and they don't want you to be hit by reality. So they'll get you into that cycle.
It's a manipulation of the system.
We create problems and we give solutions, but they're not really solutions.
You have to...
they're just pacifiers for the time being.
Nishtha, also tell me about the yoga asanas that can be done during periods and what can females do about yoga?
So it's a common question that I get, that if, you know, I'm on a menstruation, can I be practicing? So we can understand yoga at a more holistic level and see that it's not that you cannot practice yoga, but let's understand that traditionally menstruation was looked at as a rest day for women, where they were asked to rest, where they were asked, so it was not like today we see that, okay, earlier there were restrictions on women, but they were actually asked to take rest. But today, over a period of time, things got misinterpreted. Now, when yoga comes in the picture, by and large, you are asked to rest your physical body. And even if you are wishing, because it has to be an individual choice at the end of the day. When you are using your physical body to move, say for example, you are choosing to do yoga asanas, I feel it greatly helps. But you can just make choices that will actually help you rather than, affect the menstruation days. So when I say that, I mean choosing practices which are more restorative in nature, slower, gentler practices, where you can take support of bolsters and cushions, doing it in a more Iyengar method or restorative method, where you can hold a posture, rest in it. That actually will help the woman to relieve, the physical cramps that you may feel, the bodily cramps that happen because muscles tend to get constricted.
Yes.
So when you allow yourself to be in certain gentle postures, doing it in a more passive manner, holding it for a longer period of time, you actually allow it to release and the flow can feel more comfortable. The pains are also minimized over a period of time. So that helps. So in general, for women, practice of yoga is great towards their fertility, towards reproductive health and menstruation. So it has been observed, and it has been my experience as well, that with regular practice of yoga for women, in general, when the cramps or the flow wasn't good enough or period pains would be very intense, that starts to become a lot more bearable and reduces when actually, when you are having a menstruation. So it's not that during your menstruation you do it and suddenly you see a difference. Over a period of time, you start seeing that. Now, there are also, traditionally, it has been observed in yoga that you shouldn't be doing certain postures and certain practices for that matter.
That is important to know about.
Yeah, to know about, such as inversions, being upside down. For example, doing postures which are going into deep twisting, or for example, where you're compressing or very core activating practices or postures, whether it is asana, whether it's a different style of workout or exercise. Why it's said that? Now, it is not coming from a space of restricting someone to not do, or you must not, a woman's body is not, it's not coming. Sadly, a lot of women also, or even yoga practitioners, don't fully understand the traditional reasoning for it. So in yoga, we understand something also to be the subtle body or the energy body, where the prana flows or the vayus flow. So it's not something that is seen to the naked eye. It's beyond the physical body. It's not something you see on the physical body. So when I say that, we have something known as the apana vayu, which is one of the 5 pancha vayus. Vayus are energetic flows, if I may just put it very simply. So in apana vayu is the downward flowing energy, which is responsible for the bodily, the physiological actions of, say, menstruational flow, because it's downward. All of your, everything that governs that, say for example, bodily excretion of any kind, childbirth, all of that is guided by what we see traditionally as apana vayu. So apana vayu is responsible for the downward flow of movement. So when a woman is on her menstruation, traditionally yogis understood that the apana vayu shouldn't be disturbed. So hence, when you do, say for example, you go in a shirshasana and you go upside down, so it's believed that the apana vayu, which is the downward flow of movement, can be interrupted and disturbed because you're going against gravity. We want that gravitational pull to be downward. Does it mean, because people commonly say, oh, does it mean that the blood will flow to my head? And not really, it's not that. But it's not the blood that is flowing. It is the vayu or energetic flow that is getting disturbed. And for the health of your reproductive system, it had been advised traditionally that you avoid and stay away from those, specific practices. Suppose even intense breath practices such as Kapalbhati, Bhastrika, certain kriyas such as Nauli, Agnisar, etc., just to name a few, should be avoided, and gentler practices should be done. Gentler pranayam, meditative practices, chanting, bhakti yoga. So it doesn't mean you don't do yoga. You just choose what works for yourself, and at the end of the day, the woman chooses her discretion and understand what works for her body. So it's not coming from a space of restriction. It's coming from a space of understanding what you need at that time.
Understood.
Yeah.
Nishtha, also tell me about meditation and yoga together. How is it? Can you elaborate on that?
Very commonly, it is kind of viewed as yoga हम करते हैं और meditation अलग है. Like, they're looked at as 2 separate entities.
Okay.
But meditation is also yoga. We should understand that yoga is this huge umbrella under which you have asana, you have your pranayam, and you have your dhyan or meditation. So you cannot separate yoga from meditation. So a person who is practicing yoga asanas and a person who is just doing dhyan or meditation are both doing yoga.
Correct.
So you cannot separate that. Today, because the buzzword mindfulness has really come up, and you associate meditation with the mind, which is also an incomplete view of it. So when a person associates these two, like mind and meditation, we have billion-dollar industries which are revolving around capitalizing on meditation and to get you to meditate.
So that is why they are separating the two?
Correct, maybe because then you have more things to sell.
Yeah.
Right? You have more things to sell.
More products on the shelf.
Correct. Because everything is looked at as an IP, is looked at as a product, something that has to be delivered. So if you tell everybody wo to sab yoga hi hai, then it's just like, it's not exciting enough and people don't want to go in deeper into it because it's an eventual step you get to. When you talk about meditation. But so like I'm talking about how there are meditation apps today, or there are guided tools and this and that. While it can be very helpful, and I'm definitely not taking away the credit from that, but I think we need to understand where it comes from. It doesn't have to be too fancy. It's very basic. And, today, I don't know the view people carry of meditation. It can be varied. Either there are those who are very scared of it, or there are those who look at it as a complete separate entity, that I am working for mental health, hence I'm doing meditation. And if I want to work on physical health, then I go to yoga. You cannot separate the two.
Correct. It is that what we are hearing in the out there in the people are speaking about this in two different forms.
Yes. You cannot separate body and mind. Hence, you can't separate yoga and meditation. You can't separate asana and meditation. So when we even look at the traditional, say, the philosophy of yoga, there, if you look at one aspect which is known as Ashtanga Yoga. So there are many philosophies also. But if you just simply look at even Ashtanga Yoga, which are 8 limbs of yoga, and to which, even if I don't go into all 8, but say asana comes on the 3rd limb, and you have pranayam, then you also have something called pratyahar, then you have something called dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Okay, so dharana is a step that comes before dhyana, which is one-pointedness, to concentrate. Today, most people think of meditation as concentration. Meditation is something I tell my students as well, that I cannot teach you. You can't really be taught. You can be guided towards it by bringing your focus and bringing your one-pointed awareness towards something, and then meditation may happen as a result of it. So it's an eventual getting to, and sadly people don't want to go into the depth of understanding this, because मुझे बस 2 मिनट का कोई meditation करा दो, ऐप लगा के कान में सुन लिया, and I feel that I've done the job.
Rightly saying that these applications on the name of meditation are helping us to just concentrate.
Yeah, they're just distracting you from something else onto something else, which can work, which is not bad, because if a person is flooded with thoughts, and that's the point of dharana, for example, you cannot completely empty your mind. Like you tell a person, they usually think meditation means emptying the mind. But it's actually trying to just get your attention to the voice that's playing in your ears, and you're moving your attention from those 10,000 thoughts onto, say, just one or a fewer thoughts. So that makes a person feels a little bit more at ease or in more control of themselves. So that is the first step, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's an eventual getting to. A person who hasn't actually worked with the physical body, for that matter, cannot even sit for meditation. And what happens when you take away the meditation app? What happens when you take away the guided meditation? Then can a person do, because they have then created a dependency on it. And that's only because they haven't looked at the previous steps, which was first working with the body, tuning yourself with the physical body, with the breath, learning how to withdraw yourself from the external and moving into the internal. That is what the journey of yoga, and even if I just name these 8 limbs, are teaching you. And that's the reason, because we have missed out this, we have been able to create a separation between yoga and meditation. Whereas actually meditation is yoga, is a part of yoga as well.
And because there was a very long gap in this industrial era where we lost in touch with these educations that were missed out, I think they could easily use that to manipulate them as two different things.
Probably, and probably somebody just, like we say, you find a new buzzword for a certain era or a generation. Right now we are working with mindfulness, where suddenly mental health is a concern, while it should have always been. And the system of yoga doesn't separate the two. It has always been one leading to the other. You work from the gross to the subtle. Hence you work from the body towards the mind. Mind is a subtle aspect. So it's always a gradual reaching off. You arrive at it. You don't separate the two. Hence, it's
Very good explanation of the two.
Thank you.
And you also speak about enjoying boredom, which I personally feel is a very important part of our lives. I want to discuss that because I feel a lot of things depend on that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think boredom gives birth to creativity.
Absolutely.
Because boredom is nothing but a space. Yeah, it's like that empty space, a pause or a gap in whether your head, in your day, or whatever. The problem is because people around you tell you that you must be productive and you must be busy, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. Now, there are two extremes to it. Yeah, but looking
This
at
is
boredom.
actually what you just said is what has manipulated us to not have a free time.
Yeah.
Just keep on doing task to task to task, and if you're sitting free, just have anxiety because someone in the family told me, "Khali dimag shaitan ka ghar hai."
Yes, conditioning.
It is conditioning. Although I personally, because I did not follow any of this saying, for me personally, that is what I imagine it like. For me, boredom is like a playground of Legos. All these thoughts are Legos for me, and I make different things. And if I like it, I'll think more about it. Else, I'll make something else.
Yeah. Think about it. When we used to earlier, when we were not ruled by gadgets. When you were in the toilet, and you would say the best ideas come on the thinking.
Yes.
It's called the thinking pot.
Yes,
because you
yes,
did
yes.
not have anything distracting you. Today, people take their phones in the toilet, right? So you have blocked out something that could have been time for you to come up with something creative or come up with a novel idea, to be in touch with what, has been brewing in your mind.
Yeah.
For that matter, simply learning to introspect, it's like having the empty spaces. So boredom, which has been given such a negative connotation, we try to fill up those empty spaces and then we're not left with anything. And then you wonder, why am I so mentally saturated? Right? But the mental saturation has come because you have filled up all the gaps. You have filled up all of the empty spaces. And space is so crucial. You need space, and it's only when you hold space for your thoughts to come together so you can layer them out, discard, and that is what we do. That's your introspection or whatever you may call it. If you don't get the chance to do a little decluttering of your mental space, then we call ourselves saturated, then we say we are anxious, then it starts showing up in the physical body, then we get paranoid, then we have breakdowns.
They're always multitasking.
Correct.
There's always, I've seen most of the people always having 3 to 4 tasks running in their head parallelly.
Yes.
Rather than having any free time while they're doing nothing.
Yes.
Nothingness is causing a lot of fear.
Yes, it is. It's scary because how do you sit with yourself, right?
But it would, rather on the other hand, I think kids should be taught about being free, because I see that a lot of system is like that the kids very early in their life are taught to not be free.
And I think it's also the parents who need to be open to that, because they feel that अगर हमने बच्चों को कुछ करने नहीं दिया, हमारे पे आएगा.
Yes.
So fill them up with a piano class, fill them up with a karate class.
Always some hobby class.
From one to the other. Yeah. While it's great for them to be, moving into all of these activities, but at the same time, let the child breathe. Let the child come up with its own games, come up with its own way of playing.
बचपन में I remember, मतलब कभी कभार आप सिर्फ खाली बैठ के एक पत्थर पे दूसरा पत्थर मारते थे.
हमें तो खिलौने नहीं चाहिए होते थे.
हाँ, मतलब आपने वो 2-3 चीजें कर ली, या फिर कभी आप नदी किनारे बैठे हो, पानी में वो पत्थर मार रहे हो आप बस. That कोई आपको टास्क करना जरूरी नहीं है. I think it is very important to be free, completely free.
Yeah.
I think we should, like the parents and the houses should work on stepping back from just creating a task list of every day.
Also because then every kid has their own personal iPad today, right? So even if they are bored, because the parents are scared that the child will come on to them when they're bored.
We have to work.
Play with me, talk with me, and you want to, do your thing. So you have to keep your child engaged. And it's always coming from that. So it's not like there is some, it's a lot of contribution from the parents' side. So that's a decision they have to probably want to make, if they see that boredom should be inculcated in their life. It's a very important emotion or an activity or whatever you call it that should be felt.
I think it's one of the most important things for people to be happy and to be creative, because creativity, I think, naturally brings happiness.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nishtha, also explain a bit about karma yoga that you also practice, and also different, like the types of these forms, and so that the viewers can learn about this and can maybe practice somewhere in their life.
Yeah. So there are traditionally looked at as 4 paths of yoga, out of which one is karma yoga. So there is karma yoga, there's raj yoga, there's bhakti yoga, and there's jnana yoga.
Okay.
All lead to the same goal, which, if I may just, very simply put it as say samadhi, enlightenment, moksha, whatever, to break out of. Everything is leading you to the same goal, eventual goal, which may come in a lifetime or many. But the paths can be chosen as per, where you're inclined to or where you're drawn to. So if you talk about Karma Yoga, it is simply put as your action. It's just the action that you put into it without the expectation of what is to come or what you are to receive from it.
So without an intention.
With an intention,
Okay.
but without an expectation
Without an expectation
of the outcome.
So you have an intention,
Correct.
but you don't have the expectation.
Yes. You are consciously
It's a
carrying
giving,
out actions.
Giving
Yes.
kind of an attitude.
It is. But even if you think, let me do something good, वो भी एक expectation है.
Correct.
आप जब एक conscious level पे you're taking out or carrying out an action or a karma, just to do for just the requirement of it, if there is something that needs to be done. And if it happens to be a good deed, well and good. But if something needs to be carried out and I do it without the fact that I will get anything from it, will I even be alive? Will I be around to see it, have its whatever outcome? If you can do it with that, just that itself is karma yoga, It's not even about like it's, okay, social service, giving back to humanity, society, वो तो by default हो ही जाता है.
Correct.
But वो अगर हटा दिया that I want to be a good person, I want to be kind, I want to do some kind acts, like that's how
these are byproducts. These
portrayed.
Are,
That is also trying to get people into it. But at the very level at which it begins, it is an act that is to do. Just something that has to be done, to kar liya. You don't have to be there. So, I mean,
you're not
Bhagavad
doing
Gita
it
talks
very,
about
very
karma yoga.
consciously or with an expectation, like
Correct.
you rightly mentioned.
Yes.
You just do it.
It's to do. It's simply to do.
Do.
That's how, simple it is. It's hard to accept.
Yeah.
We live in a transactional
it is
world.
An action.
Yeah. मुझे इसमें से क्या मिल रहा है? If you can drop that thought. That's it. When we are living in a very, very transactional world where even a minute and every hour of yours, you are calculating as per this is, worth this much if I am giving 1 hour of my time for something. It's so hard to not think that way. Though you are having to function in that world, today you are getting opportunities where every minute, you're paid for every minute.
It's calculated.
Correct. So to then come out of that thought and sometimes to just do is Karma Yoga, and Bhagavad Gita heavily talks about that and very beautifully talks about that. And so if I just share with you, I remember, so a few months back, I was in this ashram where, where we were staying, and as a part of the ashram, it's not just that, you go there, you're studying or doing a program, you're giving like a donation contribution or you're paying up there. So it's not functioning like a hotel or whatever, right? It's that you are a part of it now. You've come here, you're staying, you're also contributing and being like members of the place, for example. And so we would have each day any task or whatever that we want to pick up just to give, just to do, without having to think. And so they would let us choose, because they don't want you to carry that emotion of, ye karna padega, mera kaam hai. Like it's a duty. But it has to come from the right space that you're doing to do. And so I would enjoy picking up gardening and farming. Because again, put me in nature, I'd love to do that. So anytime I have to get my hands dirty with soil and this and that, and just being in nature, walking bare feet, that comes to me very naturally. So a friend and I, we would, always choose the gardening. So whether it was cleaning out the weeding or sowing seeds. And while we were sowing seeds, I remember we were having such a good conversation with each other that this at such a true level is Karma Yoga. It's not having to think, I did a donation.
Yeah.
I put some money in an NGO. Look, social service kiya maine. No, me simply sowing the seeds, and I know within a few weeks I'm going from here. This will take months to grow. So that means I will not be around when the fruit or the vegetable has grown, because they would use that from the farm into the kitchens. But how beautiful is it to also realize that not only am I not going to be here, but to realize that all of these days I was eating something that was sown by somebody else. मैंने किसी के कर्म का फल already खा लिया. So why must I, have to think, what's the point of being under the sun and filling rows and rows with just say radish seeds or whatever we used to be doing? It was just so fun.
This is very holistic thinking that you just mentioned. अगर सब हम इस thought के साथ चले ना, the life is very, very beautiful.
Yes.
it is a like you give away things without any expectation. जैसे हम सुनते भी आ रहे हैं, हमने बचपन में भी सुना है, नेकी कर दरिया में डाल.
Dal. Correct.
It is what
Yeah.
you should
And
follow.
how then you realize that without even knowing each other, we're just somehow connected, and then you say you're a
Yeah.
part of a collective or whatever.
Yeah, we are connected.
Correct.
Someone was working for
Yeah.
the thing that we are
Yeah.
enjoying on our table right now.
Yes, and that means you're always being looked after. If you recognize that you have
Yeah.
actually somehow you are being looked after, not because you are rich and you can buy things, but because of your karma. And that's when the concept of karma also, in general, we just talk about karma, whatever,
Yeah.
comes into place. So your karma is taking care of you. You don't actually have to be like, मैंने पैसे कमाए, मैंने खरीदा, मैंने, you know.
There's
In
a
this
ego,
indirect
the
way,
ego boom that happens.
correct. Your karma has played out its role, and hence you are where you are. If you like actually zoom out and look at it, so that is taking you forward. So that's why when you say karo neki karo darya mein dal, so beautifully applies.
Yeah.
You are being looked after.
True.
Yeah.
True. I think these are very important things to at least look in, reflect, and at least introspect when you have free time. I wish people start finding free times, because the things we are discussing, you only discover when you have free time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we are very, very badly caught up.
We all have time, but don't want to free it up, no? Because bore nahi hona, na?
Correct. Bore nahi hona. That is the problem. It was great talking to you, Nishtha. Amazing insights around yoga and life. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you for watching till the end. I hope you really liked the video. Please do comment below and tell us your feedback, and also tell us the guests that you would like to have on the show. We will definitely try and invite them and have on the show to discuss different aspects of well-being. Also, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share, because that helps us to reach out to more and more people to have the impact that we are working for. Thank you very much.